Hello everyone, back to the video again. So in this video we'll be talking about some of the improvements that we discussed we'll do in the last video, and let's open some of the discussions. And before we dive into the video, I just wanted to show you that I've set up the FastAPI package for this CLI tool that we are building. So this is the listing page. We have currently bumped it to 0.2.5 because I've been testing a lot of things. A lot of things are not working and I don't want to do it live, obviously. LLMs were of no help, of course. I had to dig up the entire documentation online. Finally found this neat little thing here that allowed me to authenticate through FastAPI using my access token, the API key, and worked out eventually. Anyways, we'll go into details of those steps, and in the meantime, let's add more functionality first, and then we'll go ahead and talk about the pending items. So first, let's recap what we did last time. So we now have built a CLI tool that takes in a directory or a URL and it converts it into a markdown file, right? So we can try it. We can say something like RTTPy type URL and sync, and then it will create an rtt.md file, which is by default this is the representation of the HTML file that you would find on this website that I just opened. Cool. Now coming back to where were we? Also, I can also pass in directories. So I can say instead of type URL, I can say it's type directory, and then I can say home Shami, then YouTube, then it's called RTTPy, and then I can open something like source, and then RTTPy and services, and let's see. Cool. So it read 3 files. The entity is this and the path is this, right? So let's see, because I entered the path of services, the file got created here. The file is only 2.89 kilobytes, which is a good thing. Let's open it up and see. So this is good. You have the file name and the file content in backticks, so there's clear separation, as you can see from my the way you see it is the way you get markdown editor. So this is good. So this is what we have already, and this is already pushed to the FastAPI repository. Anybody can install it. We are currently at 0.2.5 version. Cool. We'll go into detailed steps of how I configured the GitHub actions and the manual deployment procedure. So we'll look into both. We'll look into the automatic deployment procedure through GitHub actions, and we'll also look at the manual deployment procedures that you can locally build locally, and then you can just publish it, right? You can write, let's say, pdm publish, and it's going to go ahead and publish it for you. It's going to ask me for username and password, etc., which we are not going to do for now. So let's start. So let's start with some of the things that we may need. Now that I think about it, we don't need to add support for multiple input files, not necessarily in the same directory, because then you would generate multiple files and you can reuse the same CLI tool to do the same thing. So I don't think it is needed, and it is going to take up much of time. So I'm going to skip it for this video. I'm going to skip a few things in this video because it's going to be a long one, because I need to add the Grok API service. So let's just open that as well real quick. Grok API docs. And just to test it out, I'm just going to use one of my Grok tokens from my other projects, which I don't want to show it online, but I don't think we have an option with this, no? So we'll add configurability for output directory and the file extension and the output file name and all that stuff. We'll also add support for LLMs to query from the generated file. GitHub Actions to build and deploy project is already done. So all these three things I've done it. The reason I did it was obviously doing it live would have taken a lot of time. So I had set up the deployment procedure beforehand so that we can now focus on adding the features, which is what matters. And eventually we'll talk you through how I did all these things. Anyways, so let's start. So first, we need to add configurability for output directory and the file extensions and the output file name. Obviously, we don't want that, right? So let's just open the application. You would also see that I have refactored it. So this is inspired from the typer documentation itself. So during the time span between the last video and this current one, I had time to go through the documentation in its entirety. I've read everything, and there is a neat little section in this documentation called building a package. Now building a package has a lot of information, but it's not entirely useful in our case because it's using poetry, which is also a very good Python dependency manager, almost as good as PDM, not as good as UV. UV is faster than all of them, but it is what it is. So this is how they recommend writing out your typer application. There is one thing that I would like to point out is the annotated types. Let me search for it. Annotated. Yes, I wanted this only. Let's just go to this, please. So basically, we want to add some refactoring, of course. So first things first is we have this process command. We don't need this process command. This is an entity which can take any number of arguments. So basically what we want to use is annotated. So from typing extensions, we will use import annotated. Okay? And we're going to have another command. So instead of having like directory and URL as an enum type that you switch between passing the entity type flag, we'll say we'll have like commands for both of them. So we'll say we'll have a command called dir, cool, and we'll also have a command for URL, cool. And what we want to build here is we're going to build a kind of a system where you can say, let's say rtt-py dir, pass in some path, something, let's say something, let's say cursor itself, okay. And then you would also want to pass in another query, like query, and then you would pass in a query like what does this folder do. So I want to build something like this, because in the Go iteration that we did, the same thing if you would want to do would be rtt query, and then you would pass in either a directory or a URL, which is in this case this, and then you pass in a question. So this is how we build it, and I think that's how I would also like to build it here. Now that I think about it, this looks like a better approach. So we can leave it as it is, the normal thing. So, and then we can build out this query command, right? So we'll have app.command, and we'll have a query command. Okay, let's see what it does. So it takes a query, it takes a type, okay, and it takes an entity, okay, and then it takes a query. The query is an annotated string, which is an argument query to ask, okay. Non-default follows default argument. understand. This is parameter without a default cannot follow a parameter with default. Takes a query, takes an entity, and it takes a type. Now query a directory, a URL. So ensure types match. If it's a directory, work directory, finish. But now we don't need to do all of this stuff, because we need to modify the services to first return us the content as buffer, which is going to pass as context to the LLM, and then it would respond with some text that we're going to display, right? So that is going to be the flow. So what we need is, instead of this we need and you have an URL parser, a dir worker, and an LLM .py, or let's just rename it, because since we'll be using grok, let's just say grok.py, right? And this is the API documentation. This is the URL that we'll be using to power this interaction, which is going to be amazing. We'll be using session to manage all of this. So let's get started, shall we? I have the grok API key. I have it. So let's start. So we'll say class, we'll call it chat completions. Okay. And cool. API key is API key. Let's see if it's picked up the right API chat completion. Yep. It's the new header. Pass in the bearer, which is the API key, and you have to pass the, and then you need a model. So in our case, let's add we'll start with the hardcoded model. So we'll also say self dot model is going to be not this, instead it's going to be this. Okay, now you have this is going to be the default card. I'm just going to paste it on top. Just going to paste it here. The reason why I'm going to paste it is it's going to help Copilot figure out the request. It's going to be the curl, and it's going to be the completion response. It's going to be the completion response. Cool. So I'm gonna first have some types here. I think need some types. Okay, and okay. No, I don't need any of that. From data class or from typing, import typed. I need a typed it. Okay. So we need chat completion request. It's going to be, let's see if it's able to. Okay. Or you know what? Let's just do the rest of it first. Let's add a set model. Or you know what, I don't need that. I can add it as a property later. Let's just say def get response, generate response. We part of messages. It's going to be a list. The reason why it's telling me to have it as a list is because there could be multiple messages. So there's a role, user, explain the importance of the fast language models. Okay, so it needs messages, and it needs a row, and it needs a content. So basically all I need is from this guy is content. I need content and I need the query. right? So, and this is only going to give me a response. So let's just abstract everything from this. So I'll create a class message, and it's going to have a role and a content, and it's going to have a query, which is going to be a string. We don't need we need a context and a query. So basically the context will act as the context for the model, and the query is going to be the question we'll be asking on top of the context. So this is just going to be a message, and we'll just return a string. Cool. See what it does. Model is a user, content, system is a context. We'll say embed. This is not going to work. See, what is not going to work is if we just pass the entire context that we're getting as part of the message object. If we just directly pass it as a system prompt, it's not going to work. We need to inform the model that this is the context on which the user is asking the question. So we need like a helper method. Let's call it embed context. Right? It takes a context string, and then it returns a context. So we'll say context is context. Not like this. Cool. Let's use triple quotes. We'll say context is context, but we'll not. We'll use tags. So we'll say context, and we'll say context, and in the middle there will be context. Okay. And then I'll write your task is to answer the following question based on the context above. Answer the questions based on the context above. So this is going to be some the embedded context. Now that we're going to pass it to this. So this is just going to say embed context, and embed context is going to take this. Cool. So now the system has the context of the entity that we are viewing. So entity could be either the content of a URL, or a website, or a directory converted into flat files. Now we do request post self URL, headers is headers, and data you get the data, bro. But I mean, the real thing is we need to specify tokens. God, bro, we need to start tracking tokens because this should return the number of tokens it consumed. So that's all cool. So we'll say message, we'll say input message. So let's call it input message, and we'll have another type called output message, which is going to have a string. Or you know what, let's not have a predefined type. The reason why we don't want to have a predefined type is because we'll have to import the type in the main file as well. I don't want to do that. So instead what we'll do is we'll just say it's a tuple, give you a string, I'll give you two integers, input tokens and the output tokens. Input token and output tokens. how many of it was that. Yeah, so then it is don't need. So that's the thing we'll be returning. So because this is the structure is there, so basically we need the prompt tokens and we need the completion tokens. So completion tokens is the number of tokens it took for and then we'll just say prompt tokens, or you know what, should we just say the number of tokens it consumed? No, let's have all three. Okay, so now this seems like it's going to work now. So now let's integrate it, right? So in here what we can do is we can say now another important thing here is we want the convert method to not just return us the path to the saved file, it should also return us the content, right? So let's say it wrote the content and then I want to return both. So I want to return the file and the content. So I want to return a tuple. So this will return the both file and the content. So second could be none. And want content. It's going to be a bool, which by default is going to be false. So if want content, server.file contents, else none. Cool. But file contents, I'm already doing file.read, right? So file contents is what it is, right? To be a string. So instead of doing that, let's just read this file. And store it in file contents. No, let's not store it in a temporary variable, bro. Just call it content. And we'll return it. Cool. Now same thing now we need to do for URL parser as well. So it's going to take want content flag kind of thing, where we'll just say, for now let's just say we don't want it by default. So the existing logic shouldn't break, and it is now returning a tuple of string comma none. Okay. Now let's just say if want content here we already have what we call it as stuff.markdown. Yep. Here in this case we don't need it as an else block. We just have it at the end. Okay, so this handles it. Now in main.py we don't need to change anything. the existing flow is still going to work. Now all that we've added here is that we'll be getting both of it now. So let's say we have now both the path and the content. So instead of saying finished, we'll say red directory. Okay. And I'll say query an entity path. Now we will import, so first we'll have to add that grok service in the init file. So from grok import chat completions and chat completions. Yeah, log is log is pretty happy that we are not erroring out anything. So let's go back to main. Now that we have added this import symbol, we just import chat completions. Okay. So chat, we already have the path and the content. Now we don't even need the path, just need the content. Now we'll query chat is chat completions. Does it require an API key? It requires an API key. So for that, what we'll just do is we'll just say OS grok API key for OS. Okay. And there's no default. If perfect. So doesn't need API key anymore. In fact, doesn't need anything. Okay. Chat completions dot generate response is a context. It's going to be content. Okay. What is saying? Element type dict string cannot be assigned to parameter message to tag input message. You know what? Let's have input message imported from the init file, because that makes sense. I mean, I don't want to not see. I already told you, I hate violating my namespaces. Violating would be a wrong word. Let's just say I hate polluting my namespaces. Now you have a response. So let's say we'll call it response. We'll call it input tokens and output tokens. But when we're doing this, when we want to convert, we want content true. So if want content is true, we're not going to write it. So if you want content, you're not going to write it. If not want content. No, that is wrong. What I want to do is I want to delete this. And in case of URL parser, also I don't want to write it. So if not want content, then we'll write it. If want content, this looks now cleaner. So we have the response input token, output tokens, and all that stuff. We'll just say log read info, finish response. Let's try it out, shall we? Before doing that, I need to add my API token cat .env, and then we'll grep for proc. Okay, we'll copy this. Don't worry guys, by the time you see this, I'm going to be removing it. So we'll call it let's query. And we'll query this website, and the type will be, let's say, URL. Query is you know what, this is now that I think about it, query should be an option as well. Query should be also an option. So basically now what we are doing is so we'll just say entity, which is going to be https ssi.inc, type is going to be URL, and query is going to be what does this company do? No, this is command. I honestly don't know what sort of behavior is happening, so let's just see. So you have two commands, we have query and we have process now, so I think we'll have to use it together. So we'll do query, then we'll say https site.inc, we'll say type is URL, and we'll say query is what does this company do? No answers. Why? So the process thing is still working, but for some reason this is not working. Query is not working. Entity is an argument, same as your process thing, right? And type, these are the same things, right? That's the thing I hate about Vim, you know. When you paste over something, you copy the thing you pasted. So, I don't know. Fine. Query is also an option. Default is explain the context in detail. Why is it not producing any out? Oh, I've not implemented the URL. That's why it's not. Anyways, it's fine. Now I have. So red URL querying finished. Done. First thing let's do is we'll query without any query flag. So it will take the default thing. So let's see what it does. It says context appears to be about a company called Safe Superintelligence, which is focused on blah blah blah. And let's now do this. This company is, which is good now. This is good. This is actually working. Amazing. Amazing. So this completes the feature set. So let's write some readme. Let's write install rtt-pi. So that is your installation usage. Let's just say let's add the help from this. Now I added the so the added yep, this seems good enough. Everything seems good enough. So now we don't need the nodes to be committed to version control. So I'm just going to remove nodes and let's just push it to feet and LLM support. Cancel push, and we'll also bump it a version so that there is a deployment. We'll say PDM bump not a patch, this is going to be a minor, it's going to be a major. Tag dirty git push tags. And we also push the version bump. So let's see if it's getting built, and then we're going to talk about the steps I used to deploy the application. This is not the entity. This is the one. Cool. Let's go to actions. It is not deployed. Not deployed. Let's refresh. Cool. Current version is just 0.2.6. Why does it say that? It should say 0. What is it? PDM build, PDM publish, hyphen identity, hyphen username is token, and hyphen password is cool. So I had to manually push it because the tag was pushed before the PyPy package was updated. It's fine. I had to manually upload it. So now we have a stable release, guys. Cool. Now let me talk you through the process of creating your own CLI packages. So let me see, we are so no dirty changes, so let's just go over it, what we've done here. So what we've done here is you would see three things. First is setting up project scripts. So you need to point it to your typer application, so that way when you build this using a PDM backend build system, it will point to that typer system, and then when you install it using pip, let's say you install rtt-py, then this is going to be the entry point of your application, and this is going to be distribution true. All this is PDM standard. You can find all this information here in build and publish. Even the GitHub action that I use is this exact same one which I picked it from their website. The only thing I modified is I am now running it on every push, and the information that they mentioned about OIDC related trusted publishers is not working in my case. Was not working. I mean, I tried a lot, but I don't want to put in too much time into things for trivial, so I'm just using this another hack that they've also mentioned that requires an API token to publish packages. You can use token as a username, an API token as a password. Anybody can get an API token. You just have to go to FastAPI and register yourself. I'm going to show you how. So if you see like this is my package, this is all the releases that we've been doing. I've been doing it from like the last 2 hours. I think the video started at this point, but I've been trying to do it for hours now. So if you go to settings, you would see like create token and stuff. There is already an active token that I have I think shown in this video, which I'm going to go ahead and delete. And then I'm going to create a new token and I'm going to re-upload stuff. But this is how the flow is. You go ahead, you register, you log in, you go to setting, you create a project, you create a token for it, and then it's pretty straightforward. Once you do these changes in your pyproject.toml file, you can then run the command pdm build, and it will build the wheels that will be pushed to the PyPy registry. And if anybody has the builds, right, this is your wheel, right? So if anybody has the wheel, they can directly run your application. Now, this is the wheel. Then when you build, you can just manually publish it. So you can do pdm publish, and you provide a username as token and your API token as a password, and it's going to publish it. Cool. So I hope you guys learned something. I understand that this was not a beginner friendly thing, and but this is cool, right? It's very, very cool. Let's try it out. Let's try some use cases. Let's say I want to use I'll show you some use cases and then we're going to end this video. So we'll name it RTTPy. We'll query. Let's query some nice website. Let's query this website. Okay. This is the API doc of the Grok API itself, and I'm querying Grok with it. And I'm going to say type is URL, and I'll say query is. First, let's not pass any query and see what it does. So if we don't pass any query, then it is going to take in explain the context in detail, the default question as the question, and then it is going to produce you. It took good amount of tokens, so input token was around 7,000. So we are wasting a lot of tokens, but let's just read it. The context is a API reference documentation for Grok, cloud-based, blah 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 blah, which is cool. Now, let's say I add a query. Let's make it smaller. Let's say I add a query, and the query says, which models does it support? I don't know if this information is even available on this page, but let's see. Okay, the API supports the following models: Gemma, Llama, Whisper, Distill Whisper. These models can be used for various such as audio instructions, which is cool. So, and then now let's also try with the directory. Now the code that I've written, let's give in the entire code and see what the LLM thinks, right? That's the whole purpose, right? Python -m RTTPy. This only while I'm running it locally. I cannot install it right now because there's a lot of dependency issues on my laptop, but you can try it out. It's live now. So we'll query, but this time we'll query this code basically. So we'll say home shami YouTube and RTTPy, and then we'll say type is directory, and we'll pass in the query. What does this code base do? Let's see if it Okay, so I think we are including random files, right? So we'll have to skip more files. This is something we should handle though, right? This error is happening because we are trying to read a file which is not UTF-8 decodable. So that means we are trying to read cache files, right? So instead, what we'll do is let's go a deep level inside. So we'll say serve alt pi src and src rtt pi, and then let's see, it took 2400 tokens. We are actually asking about the whole we passed it the whole code, and let's see what it says. It says overview of the code base. The provided code base is a command line interface tool built using Python and the type of library. It appears to be designed to interact with large language models and perform tasks such as querying directories, which is cool. Now the only trouble is when we are doing this, I don't like the way it is getting displayed. So one last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add let's open it in a new is VS Code open? Yeah. So last thing, this is going to be the last thing, guys. If you want to leave, you can leave. I'm doing this for me. This is fine. What I want is when I'm printing this response, I don't want it to be printed like this. Instead, what I want is I want to use rich, right? From rich dot. How do you import print from rich? One second. Okay, let's do this. From rich import print, and instead of doing any of this, we'll print the response like this. That's what we're going to do here. No fancy business. We'll say finished, and we'll put in the tokens, and we'll print it as a response. And let's try it one more time. Cool, this is what I wanted. So now it's very readable. It took almost the same tokens, but now it's much more readable. Let's read it through and let's call this an end. We're going to redeploy it though. So first thing that I'm going to do is what all changes have I made? So this is just one change. It's just a formatting changes, but I'm still going to call it a minor change. So we'll just say pdm bump minor hyphen tag hyphen dirty. Cool. So and then I'm going to do git add. I'm going to git commit name chore pretty query outputs. Cool. And then I'm going to do git push hyphen and git push hyphen tags. Cool. And hopefully my build step is going to deploy version 1.1 with the updated thing. Which is cool, which is very, very cool. Let's ask this again. See, the output is very good now. So this was the CLI that we built today, guys. I hope you liked it. Let's just see. Hope it doesn't fail. It failed. It says already exist. Why? You pushed it, right? It's fine, we'll push it from here. PDM publish. We'll publish it from here. PDM. And we have it deployed, guys. So I'm just going to end this video here. Hope you liked it. If you want to try it out, you can download this package here and try it out. The only thing you need to do is you need to export Grok API key, which is free. You can go create a token and export it in your bash RC or your z-sharc files. For a moment, I'm just going to show you how my z-sharc file look like for a short moment. So this is the key, but this doesn't work. I just wanted to show you. You can just export it and then you can try it out. If you don't want to use the LLM features, you can still use it without the Grok API key. If you want to add, create issues and contribute to this project, you're welcome. This code is available for free. You can try it out, add improvements and whatnot. Hopefully, I keep this going, and I really like this. This needs a little refactoring. This is already 133 lines now, but let's see if a part 3 is in place for this or not. Anyways, thanks guys. That was it. Hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Bye bye now.